It's one of the most horrifying things a parent could think of, a hijacked school bus. Now, a man in Arkansas is facing charges after police say he did just that. Police have identified the suspect as Nicholas Miller. They say Miller hijacked the bus and at some point removed the driver and took the wheel with 11 kids on board. A chase went on for about 10 miles before authorities could stop the bus. Luckily, no kids were hurt. Their parents were notified and were able to pick them up and take them home. Police say Miller is facing charges of kidnapping, aggravated assault, and vehicle piracy. A tragic story out of Berrien County as a woman drowns after being pinned under her riding lawnmower. Deputies were called to the 2300 block of Michael Road in Bainbridge Township yesterday. They found that 66-year-old Linda Marutz was mowing the lawn next to the pond when she accidentally drove into the water. The tractor rolled on top of her and she wasn't able to free herself. Because the parent or whoever wants to guilt you into something says, well, I will be hurt if you don't do this. Right. Why does the person who's manipulating do the manipulating? Do we know?
It's easier.
Yeah.
You really want it badly, and so you know that that guilt will motivate somebody else, like, oh, come on, you'll do this, really, won't you? Because the whole team's depending on you.
Mm-hmm. And if they just ask you, they could be rejected, but if you guilt them into it, then they really have no choice.
Yes. And
so what you're saying is a deep voice is much more attractive to a woman than a high-pitched male voice.
Yeah, in fact, there was a comparison of like maybe somebody like a James Earl Jones, but then Beckham has a higher voice, doesn't he? He's a good-looking guy, but...
Well, that same group is doing another study that preliminary results say that water is wet.
Davis, what do you think about that?
I think that's correct, Mike.
I don't know.
It was published in the journal Common Sense.
Perfect. Exactly where it should be.
Calhoun County deputies were called to a car versus train accident earlier this morning. It was on McAllister Road near Clarence Boulevard in Penfield Township. Deputies were told the car was partly under the train and it was unknown how many people may have been inside the vehicle. After investigating, deputies found there was no one inside. The Canadian National train hit the car and was stuck on the tracks and pushed the vehicle down those tracks. The driver of the car, a 21-year-old from Battle Creek, was arrested on suspicion of operating while under the influence of drugs. Both the driver and passenger were able to get out safely, though. McAllister Road was closed for over 2 hours as the scene was cleaned up. The accident is still being investigated. New this morning, a domestic complaint led to a drug raid in Calhoun County. Deputies went to Eckford Township, and while they were speaking with the woman who'd called them, they noticed marijuana plants growing on the property. It happened around 5:30 yesterday afternoon in the 23,000 block of D Drive South. Deputies got a search warrant and then found a pot-growing operation with multiple pounds of marijuana. Other drugs were found as well, and a 53-year-old man from Homer is expected to be charged with manufacturing marijuana, possession with intent to deliver, and possession of cocaine. His name has not been released. An 18-year-old now faces charges after deputies say he helped 2 young teenage girls run away. Orlando Jimenez was arraigned yesterday in Van Buren County and ordered not to have contact with 13-year-old Jerica Springer or 14-year-old Myra Rodriguez. The 2 girls left their Lawrence school Wednesday morning and were found Thursday at a migrant camp in Shelby. Both are okay and are cooperating with the investigation. Jimenez is scheduled back in court next month. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement also has an immigration hold on Jimenez. And Maria, as the government shutdown continues, the talk now is centered on the debt ceiling. Think of that as the country reaching its credit limit. If nothing happens by tomorrow to raise that limit, the United States can swipe its hypothetical card all at once, but just won't have any money to pay for anything. A planned House vote was quickly scrapped yesterday evening when it appeared Speaker John Boehner couldn't get enough votes from fellow Republicans to pass it. Now the focus will shift back to the Senate, where Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell are working together and appear on their way to a bipartisan deal. Some expect John Boehner to try and fast-track that bill through the House. Now, whenever a deal is reached, President Obama expects it to include some major cuts, probably bigger than Democrats would prefer because they'll affect programs that they champion.
Because it makes it very difficult for us to invest in things like early childhood education. It makes it difficult for us to invest in rebuilding our roads and bridges, all the things that are necessary to actually build the economy and put people back to work.
And while a lot of the focus is on short term right now and tomorrow, the shutdown and debt ceiling debate could have longer reaching consequences. Credit ratings agency Fitch has put the U.S. on negative watch and is warning that U.S. bonds could be downgraded in the future. Live in the newsroom, Tim Doty, Fox 17 News. Good morning. President Obama says he hopes the next time things won't go down to the 11th hour, but they certainly did this time. And that appears to be the way business is done in D.C. these days. Not only did the president receive the bill so late that he couldn't sign it until after midnight, the fix is only short term, funding the government until mid-January and allowing the United States to borrow money until February 7th. There are no changes to health care, the tax code, or entitlement programs, though it did set up budget negotiations for today between committee chairs in the Senate and the House. Standard & Poor's estimates that the shutdown cost the American economy $24 billion, so nobody wants to see this stuff happen again in just a few months.
Good news is that we're going to get through this shutdown default situation. The bad news is it's only for 2 or 3 months. I mean, this is, as my father used to say, a hell of a way to run a railroad.
We'll have a second chance between now and January to prove to the American people the Republican Party can govern and the Congress can address the problems that face us.
Mr. President, isn't this going to happen all over again in a few months?
No. If you're wondering how they voted, both senators from Michigan voted for the bill, and here's how the West Michigan contingent in the House voted. Representative Bill Huizinga from the 2nd District voted no, saying the bill didn't address Washington's out-of-control spending. Justin Amash in the 3rd voted no and tweeted compromise is needed to cut the debt. Dave Camp in the 4th District voted no, but Fred Upton in the 6th District voted yes, saying this will give the government time to fix its problems. Representative Tim Walberg in the 7th District also voted no. House Speaker John Boehner afterwards was quoted as saying, "We fought the good fight, we just didn't win." Furloughed federal employees will receive back pay for their time off, and offices, parks, and museums will start to reopen today. Live in the newsroom, Tim Doty, Fox 17 News. Very interesting that we've got Josh Grayson and Frankie Ballard, 2 Michigan guys who are making waves in country music.
And also Western alumni.
She has to make sure she points that out.
Where's Leanne and her Central?
See, Kelly, when we talk football, Kelly normally only claims Mississippi State.
That's right.
Now when we're talking music, she's claiming West
Talented
Michigan.
artists.
I still row the boat.
A pair of veteran teachers from Montcalm County are on paid administrative leave after school leaders say they were using the district's computers improperly. Officials at Tri-County Schools tell us the 2 instructors were removed from the Howard City School building on Wednesday. So far, district leaders aren't releasing any details about what they may have been doing with the computers. The superintendent sent a letter to parents to let them know what's going on. He says it doesn't appear the situation involves any students. This week in West Michigan, 2 teenagers died in car accidents, and statistics show crashes are the leading cause of death among teens.